Are we screwed for early 2025? I think we might be, you know. Like, do you see how many games we have coming out in the first 4 months? If you haven't, I've done a video just for that. But I am not playing all of them. Not only is it impossible to do so without locking yourself in a room away from human contact, which I don't really want to do, but I would rather play the games that appeal to me as well. And there are 15 of those, so let's get the most obvious one out of the way first. Yeah, I'm a Trails mega fan. Of course Trails in the Sky FC's remake is going to be here, and it's also the one I'm looking forward to the most. Though in the same breath, don't expect Daybreak 2 or Oath&Felgana's re-release on here because I've already played them both. Sky's remake is coming out in fall 2025, and suggestions are there that it could be a simultaneous release too, so this is uncharted territory for the West. We're actually getting a game around the same time as Japan. The announcement was the best news I heard last year. I remember seeing that small snippet in the Nintendo Direct and just jumped out of my seat, and sure enough my excitement for the game has not waned one iota. We now know the publisher, it's Gung Ho Entertainment. We know it's coming to platforms other than Nintendo Switch. The only concerns I have now is mainly for the Western release itself. Europe at present don't seem to be getting a limited edition from Clear River Games, or at least there are no plans for it, and I've made it clear to them directly that we want one. I hope many of you guys may echo that sentiment and follow suit, because if you don't ask, you don't get. It would be a kick in the teeth if the biggest Falcon release in a decade doesn't have a limited edition for EU. North America are getting one, albeit through limited run games who have their own issues, but if they're getting one, then Europe should get one too, especially when you consider that limited run games and Clear River Games are partnered. If this gets sorted and the localization of the game remains mostly the same outside of the obvious additions for the remake that Falcon has stated will be there, then this promises to be one of my top JRPGs of 2025. Getting the chance to revisit the first Sky game in this form is just a dream come true, and I'm so ready to get my hands on it. Same with this next one. I was fine with waiting for it as I have no desire to buy a PlayStation 5, partly because everything I want eventually comes to PC anyway. What's the point in spending nearly 700 quid on that when I don't need to? Of course I'm talking about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, game of the year for some and the source of one of my favourite videos from Chicken Fillets. Check it out if you get the chance. Contrary to some, I really enjoyed the first part of the remake and I'm equally excited for part 2. The gameplay, the world, the story, I am right on board for this game and it comes out January the 23rd, so I'm going to get to latch onto it very early in the year. My only hope is that the PC port is a little bit better than what we got for Final Fantasy XVI. That one absolutely throttled my rig that I was forced to install a couple of mods for the cutscenes at the very least. I really don't want Rebirth to be spoiled because of technical problems that really shouldn't be there. And since we've mentioned a PS5 exclusive coming to PC, it also makes sense to mention Stellar Blade, and I don't care if it's not your standard JRPG, it's a game that appeals to me and I'm sure to many other action-centric fans too. Plus it's recently had a Nier Automata update, so that's good enough in my book because it has Yoko Taro's seal of approval. Effectively, the two games I wanted from the PS5 are now coming to my platform of choice. Stellar Blade releasing at a yet unspecified date though, but that's fine. Gives me plenty of time to play the other games on this list, whittle down my existing backlog and then dedicate my time to this, and I'm certain I am going to enjoy it. It might not be the best game I play in 2025, but it's gonna be up there. Sometimes you just know when a game is gonna hit. Like Rebirth though, I hope that the technical issues don't hamper the experience. Granted, those technical problems should definitely not exist for the third entry because it came out originally on the Vita, and it's only a remaster rather than a full-on remake. Freedom Wars Remastered. This fairly successful action RPG had over 10 years of radio silence and now it's finally getting a revisit on January the 10th. That's perfect, because I was not even playing games back in 2014. Or not many at least, I was too busy finishing up a useless degree. So like many other games, I missed this one, and it just looks really cool to me. Set in a dystopian future where Earth's resources are depleted and humanity fights over the remaining stores in panopticons, which are meant to represent the different prefectures around Japan, kinda like a Mad Max setting with leaderboards. It also looks like there will be online multiplayer too, so I'm hoping that many do buy it so I can at least get a taste of that mode too. Another remaster takes up the 4th spot, and it will be for Tales of Grace's F. The recent announcement of the remastered project from Bamco has many of us thinking about what they have planned, but of course, we don't need to worry about this one because it's coming out on January the 17th. Grace's F is centered around the journey of Asbel and his companions as they adventure through the world of Athenia, a land ripe with greenery and vegetation, and that sounds right up my street. That synopsis alone speaks high fantasy, adventure, and camaraderie. I just like Tales games. It's not my favourite series per se, but I have pretty much enjoyed every game I've played in the franchise to date, with the exception of Vesperia. Grace's F gets wide plaudits because of its combat. It's not of the same design as Abyss, Symphonia and the like, so I'm looking forward to seeing how that pans out. And it's coming to all modern platforms too. That is a big boon for the release, so I hope it does well, because of course if it's received well commercially, then we're likely to get more even when the remastered project ends, and I put ends in quotations. Now I guess you could say the fifth spot is another remaster / remake of sorts, but I can't not be excited for it considering it is the only game within the series that I have yet to play, purely because of its Wii U prison. Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, which comes out March the 20th, 2025, and it's not even up for debate for me. My only regret is that the game comes out one day before another big hitter, and I most likely will play the other one first, or I might even play them side by side, I don't know. But this was a re-release that was so desperately needed, especially considering how beloved Xenoblade Chronicles X actually is. Some consider it to be the best of the franchise to date, which is high praise indeed. Of course, just like the original Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, this one has enhanced visuals, new story elements, and I imagine a host of quality of life features to bring it up to the modern standard. I'm under no illusions that the narrative of X isn't really the focus of the game, but that's fine. I'm just itching to visit the world of Mira for the first time. Speaking of the game that comes out a day later though, let's talk about that, because it's in the top 3 for me in terms of most anticipated. On March the 21st, we get Atelier Yumiya, the Alchemist of Memories and the Envisioned Land. Any frequent viewer of the channel knows how much I love Atelier. It is within my top 3 favourite JRPG franchises, and for very good reason. I just adore what it brings to the table in terms of cozy vibes, the crafting focus, its excellent music, and it's just had such a glow up over the past 5 years. Atelier Ryza was effectively the Persona 5 moment for Atelier. It was the one that brought many new fans in, and to date, it is the most successful sub-series within the franchise. It is because of Ryza's success, and I'd argue Sophie 2's as well, that Yumiya is noted as being the most ambitious Atelier title to date. It has far more resource than any of the games before it, and I'm totally on board for it. Yumiya looks like she'll be another fan favourite protag, the open world style looks intriguing, I'm liking the look of the combat, at least on the surface level, and in addition you get the impression that Yumiya is going to go for a more mature angle. It's because of its initial somber introduction that I thought Yumiya was a 4th Dusk game, which I beg Gust to get the green light on one day, but that's for another time. Either way, I am buying Atelier Yumiya, it will be bought on release day, and I am confident it will be one of my best games of 2025. And we're not done with Atelier. There is another one coming out in 2025 supposedly, though I never thought I would be excited for it considering what sub-series it comes from. With no specified date at present, other than 2025, we're also getting Atelier Resliana, the Red Alchemist and the White Guardian, which is set in the world of the gacha title but is noted as a completely offline spin-off coming to console and PC. So that's PS4, PS5 and Nintendo Switch. I've pulled no punches in stating what I think about Resliana. I hate it. It's a by-the-numbers gacha masquerading as a mainline game, and I'm never going to forgive it for that. The fact that it has a watered-down crafting mechanic tied to the gacha is asinine. The core of Atelier was neutered, and no amount of pretty graphics are going to change that. Which is why when I first saw the announcement of this game I started looking at my phone, because I thought it was some sort of expansion or holiday event for the main entry. But it's not. It's been confirmed that this entry will be set in the world of Resliana, but will take on a more traditional approach in terms of turn-based combat, and you'd like to think a deeper alchemy system too. And that does get my attention, but I would like to see a few more trailers, especially in regards to gameplay, so we can get a clearer idea of its substance. Like I say, it's stated as having turn-based gameplay, but I want to see how it translates to that traditional experience, considering the original Resliana also had turn-based combat, but it was boring as all heck. I'm more apprehensive about this one than Yumiya, but it's on my radar for certain. Over to an SRPG now, and this one caught my attention pretty much as soon as it was announced. It's the latest foray from Tokyo Games and the 100-line Last Defense Academy, releasing on April the 24th, only for Nintendo Switch and PC at present. There's no getting around it, I'm just expecting a great story from this one, the gameplay is a bonus. Takumi Samino gets isekai to the Last Defense Academy along with 14 other students, and it's their duty as a special defense force to defend the school from monster invaders for the next 100 days. Of course, games from this developer are never as simple as just that, and there's going to be twists, betrayals, and maybe even some mind-busting shenanigans here and there. I'm all for it. Give it to me on a silver gilded plate and I'll chomp down on what they have to offer. I'd say any fan of Danganronpa, Master Detective Archives or Zero Escape should be keeping an eye on this one, and Tokyo Games have supposedly staked a lot on it too, with Kodaka himself stating that the team is prepared to go bankrupt and retire if the game doesn't sell well. I think he's probably just exaggerating a bit there. Apparently, as the developer's first original IP, they have put plenty of resource and time into the project. Okay, we're back to turn-based RPGs now, and this is the one that I am a little bit apprehensive about. I'd say it's the game I have the most doubts for, but it's the remade Fate Extra Record coming to PS4, PS5, Nintendo Switch, and PC. The reason I am apprehensive is because I played Fate Samurai Remnant a couple of years back, and while it's a good game, it does have some striking flaws, and that was apparently one of the better Fate-based games. Fate Extra Record, originally released back in 2010, was the first RPG released for the franchise, so is it possible that some of that jank is going to remain despite being a remake? There are concerns for me, but on the other side, it's Fate. One of the richest universes within any form of media, there's a reason why it continues to go strong even today. And since it's a remake, there is going to be some fine-tuning here and there. It's going to have an expanded scenario, refreshed graphics, and one would think a more streamlined turn-based approach. Like many of the Fate games, it's focused on the Holy Grail War, where servants and masters fight against each other to have their wish granted. Definitely not at the top of my list, but I'm willing to give it a go when it comes out in 2025, as yet we do not have that specified date. Okay, to an obvious one now if you're a JRPG fan, it's the Suikoden 1 and 2 HD Remastered Collection, Pretend You Didn't See It Coming. It releases on March the 6th, and for the longest time Konami were dragging their heels over it. There was even a bit of concern that maybe the project had fallen apart, but they finally ordained to grace us with a release date, and it was marked on my calendar immediately. Never played any Suikoden game, but I am very much aware of the legacy, so that alone gets me excited. The collection is based on the PSP version, so no additions from the Saturn here, but we do get the obvious quality of life features to meet modern expectations. There's not much more to say, to be honest. I've pretty much muted everything related to both games because I want to experience them as blind as possible. I even had to implore Miyazaki-man when we met in Japan in November to refrain speaking about the game at all, since I know how big a fan he is of the franchise. I do hope it's going to be worth the wait. And there's another remaster on my list too, another collection would you believe, but again it's a duo of classics that I have yet to get a chance to play. I was born too late for many of them. Lunar's Remastered Collection releasing in spring 2025, so Silver Star Story and Eternal Blue getting the re-release for current gen JRPG fans. It was on my list for the Retro series, but by the laws of chance and RNG, it never came up on the poll for patrons to vote for. Now it's going to be readily available on modern consoles and PC, so it's no longer on that Retro list. I can play it whenever. And I'm so ready for them. Just like Suikoden, I've limited my exposure to both games. I want to play them as blind as possible. I'm just looking forward to them. And spring has yet another game I quickly added to the list, which is Clair Obscur Expedition 33 coming to PS5, Xbox Series and PC. The surprise announcement from the Xbox Game Showcase, I think it's fair to say, back in June, because it pretty much came out of nowhere, courtesy of Sandfall Interactive, who as far as I can see are a brand new French developer. This is their inaugural project. It's focused on a journey where a group is making their way towards the so-called Paintress, all the while battling enemies in a turn-based format that places importance on timing of button presses, and it looked damn good. I know it's a trailer, so obviously it's going to look good, but for a first project, it's got the visuals down to a fine wine. And the price, this surprised me the most, $50, and that apparently was a choice by the developer to make the game as accessible as possible. They see it as their first project, and they themselves as an unknown developer, so they want to get as many people involved as possible without worrying too much about the patented AAA price tag. I appreciate that. $50 is still a fair chunk of money, but if the game is as good as it looks, that's money well spent. And we're not done with spring either, because there's also a spin-off title from the Rune Factory series, Guardians of Azuma, coming to Nintendo Switch and PC, and this was a surprise inclusion for myself. Marvelous Games did state in 2023, I believe, that they were working on a title called Project Dragon, and that's translated into Guardians of Azuma, which is set in the east of the Rune Factory universe. Now, I'm going to be clear, I'm not massive on Rune Factory. I played Rune Factory 4 Special on the Switch a while back, simply because I found it on sale, and it didn't exactly do much for me. I bounced off within 10 hours. But this spin-off, the trailers present something that I think is more up my street. The action-centric combat looks pretty good, I like the overall ambience and art style, and there's a village building mechanic, which is a pretty big extension from just managing a farm. I do believe this one could be a surprise hit for me in 2025, but I'll never know for sure till I get it in my hands. This last one though, there's a good chance it won't even release for us in 2025. A big part of me is saying that Uta Wareru Mono Shiroe no Michishirube will not be in my hands for this year, which is why I've put it right at the end. We know it's coming to Japan in 2025, but even now we have no trailer, which is why I'm using monochrome Mobius footage here. We have no platforms, and just some still images and the statement that it will be a culmination of all of Uta Wareru Mono up till this point, and then it will use the same gameplay as monochrome Mobius, but more refined, which is the turn-based approach. It's going on here simply because I love the world of this franchise, and I'll be scanning around for every update I see, because Uta Wareru Mono is one of the finest stories out there. I implore all story lovers to give thought to reading the visual novels, or at least playing monochrome Mobius if you're more in tune with a traditional JRPG experience. And maybe if you find yourself hooked and complete all of them, this new release might be ready to roll by the time you get there, so you won't need to wait in anticipation like I will. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please like and subscribe for more JRPG content, and consider joining my Patreon if you're interested. Peace.